We're here tonight to speak about art and architecture with the artist Andre Monet, who is a celebrated portrait artist in over 100 galleries in the world. He perfected the technique of collage on portrait. I'm interviewing him today because he's also my husband and he's a very shy man and he doesn't speak any Greek. So we're going to be discussing art and architecture and how the two worlds work together and how those two communities, if you will, can continue to help each other in creating beautiful masterpieces and what is really possible today in a world where we are, facing certain financial crises and issues, how we continue to make art and architecture exist together and coexist together and make magic. So Andre, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks to you, Joanne. Vrakas.
We laugh because, again, he is my husband and we're doing this together. So I think the first question, la grande question, also my husband is more French, so if there is an issue and he speaks French, I will translate. So when you think of art and architecture, there's, I would say, two schools, right? Do the artists and the architects, is it better for them to work together from the start of a project? Or do we think of the building, do we think of the infrastructure, and then bring in the art? Is there a better way, and why?
Well, actually, if you ask me the question, of course, I would say it would be better to integrate the artist with the architect at the beginning of the process because the communication with the architect and the artist can resolve in magic. But sadly, like in the past, it used to be like that. Like if you have some example, like small example, like Sixtine Chapel, it ended up being like masterpiece. But now, because the production has to be fast, the budget is lower, so like art actually arrive at the end of the process. Art can arrive in any time in the process, but at first it would be better. Actually, it's better to have it at the beginning. If it's at the end, it's still good. But we always have to think about integrating the art process in the construction of the structure and the building, because at the end it's always a benefit for everyone.
So we mentioned before, you're in over 100 galleries. You have many private collectors from the royal family to, Drake the rapper and many Hollywood stars. So you're in a lot of private homes, but you're also in a lot of public spaces as well. So you'll come in on a project at a different time and be asked to be part of the public space of many of these the buildings, whether they're headquarters for a bank or a law firm or hotels, for example, from the Mandarin Oriental to the Ritz-Carlton. I want you to talk a little bit about where you think your art, in particular, these iconic portraits have played, or where they work really well. I mean, I'm thinking a little bit about the Ritz, but tell me if that's an example for you.
Well, if there's one example like that, in my case, as doing a portrait, my project with the Ritz-Carlton in Montreal was the best because the history, if you know a bit Montreal or the Ritz is an institution. It's a beautiful building. It's spectacular. The building itself, it's beautiful, and the inside also is magnificent. And also the history of the Ritz-Carlton, like we were talking about the building with the owner of the building, saying Sophia Loren used to live there for months during having movies there, and she had a little kitchen in the hotel for her. There was Elizabeth Taylor, she got married there.
She did, she got married there.
Madonna used to stay there all the time, and Rolling Stone, everyone, when they go to Montreal, they go at the Ritz. So for me, as doing portraits, it's like the perfect combination, having my painting at the Ritz, with these celebrities. So like a combination with the structure of the building, with my portraits, it's a perfect combination. Plus, because the perfect combination of like architecture and art, it's when there's a story to tell with the public. So like by example, at the Ritz, like people, they go inside the Ritz, they have a portrait of Sophia Loren, so like they have a story to tell. The building has a story to tell, and people are proud to have that connection. Plus, the structure is magnificent. So I think it's for myself, it was a perfect project.
People, we are talking a lot about costs these days, right? Because as much as there are these amazing architectural projects being put up all around the world, everyone's looking to cut costs, and at the end of that sort of bottom line is art. Sometimes the artwork that is in the building, whether it's paintings or sculptures, that tends to get maybe pushed back a little bit. Do you find that to be the case more and more? And what would you say if okay, it is the case, we have to cut, why then continue to push for the importance of having some kind of art on the walls? Why is it still so important to have that element in any new design?
Well, sadly, yes. It's the easiest thing to do is like to cut art. Like in a project, we always push the art at the end when we cut the art. But with that process is so like complicated and difficult, but you need that magic at the end, but you end up, because of budget, of like all these reasons, that you end up like cutting the art part, which is a sad decision, because people need art. It's because the integration of like the building, like the structure in the environment, a city, it's important to have the connection with the people. And if you don't have the budget too much for the art, you can at least have inside the structure have a little part of the budget to like at least give some like animation inside the building, to have something to connect with the people that's gonna go in the space. So one part, like people like ask like what part should be of the budget for the art? Well, I would say like 50%, but it's ridiculous.
No one's going to give you that, but okay.
But some like country, by example, Canada, they are like pioneer in that direction, because they have law that they force any project to have 1% dedicated for art.
So 1% of the
1% of the budget has to be in
any new
art.
Construction.
Exactly. So this is amazing. So it's also like for artists from from the country, this area. So I think it's amazing, and the result is fabulous. So if you don't do it by law, there's also in school they more and more they talk about, like they have in many universities in Cambridge, in Toronto, in in LA, they have like integration of art and architect. So this is important part to remember in the process of doing your building.
So when they asked you to do this talk, and they asked you to talk about art and architecture, the big question is, architecture is art. Obviously, it's a form of art. Is all art architecture, and how do you see the two continuing to collaborate in that sense? Because we're living in a world where there are these great projects, and then there's everyday life where buildings have to get built, schools have to get built, hotels have to get built, apartment buildings. How do you see that?
Well, architecture is a beautiful form of art, because it's an amazing combination of science and art, between together, and to arrive to create something that's going to create utilities for the people that are going to use it. It's spectacular. But sadly, because the budget are lower and lower, so people are creating kind of the same thing all over the world because they use cheap materials. They do like we need to mass produce like apartment, like utility stores or like a pharmacy, like but at least if you don't have the budget to integrate art in the creation of the building and the structure, at least you can put some life inside of it by art. Doesn't necessarily like need like some like expensive art piece, but something to create some emotion, because I think people need that. It's gonna make their day. It's gonna make like an happening in a place, so you can like find ways to work with young artists if you don't have a big budget, and do something with the space, and people will be more than happy to like suggesting and work something to create magic. So like it's a usual day-to-day thing, you can create something beautiful.
Right, because we were talking about this before in terms of trying the challenge of trying to bring to life these public spaces that are, if you're lucky and you get asked on a project, it's a fabulous, amazing, big budget, fantastic, some of the stuff we're seeing over here, kind of a project. But sometimes, you have to do the day-to-day. So talk to me, you just touched on it a little bit about the importance of I think people get intimidated when they think of art. They think this is going to cost too much, this is too much, and is it worth investing? And talk about what you think the impact is of having pieces, whether they're paintings like yours or sculptures or recycled pieces. What does it do to a building or a project that it wouldn't have if the art wasn't part of it, do you think?
It would be sad and lonely.
Sad?
And sad, extremely sad. Like a beautiful building, it seems like very like gray and lonely and sad, but you just need a little like communication with the artist, like that's gonna be like life to like some structure that would like, that if it's a utility like structure, like you just need a little bit of life.
Yeah.
It's very simple. It doesn't have like a huge budget. So you can like go like with a small budget and create something spectacular. I mean, you just have to the desire to arrive at that point, that the ultimate point, that like architecture without art is like it needs something else. It needs the magic at the end.
So we moved here to Athens about 2 years ago, and I want to talk about this a little bit because we were just talking to some of our friends here at the expo about how the environment, the direct environment, inspires the art, right? We talked about, you have some projects coming up in different islands for different hotels, but inspired by your time in Greece. And let's talk about, I want to know from you, why do you think that it is so important to put up locally inspired and locally sourced art? Like, and in your own personal experience, I mean, you started a new series here on the Greek gods when you got here. So tell me a little bit about that.
I think it's extremely important to, when you're a certain space, you need to represent the area that the building here or the hotel or restaurant, because you need to communicate to the public the element that represent this area, so like the connection would be stronger. So like by example, if you go in some island or like a Santorini, you can't have like people painting of celebrities. I mean, like you want more something that's more like can recreate the environment of like of that area there. It's more like so it has to be something like Greek sense of like imagery. Like there's so many hotels that exploited that image, which works very well. It could be a windmill, it could be like a donkey, it could be like something from the era, but you present it in a way that's gonna put the magic into the hotel. Like I don't know what's the hotel in
we were just talking about it in Mykonos, about that famous donkey that's in that
exactly.
hotel. Yeah.
So you're not only you're in a beautiful hotel, but you have that element that's gonna make strike to your mind, and you still remember after. And it's wrap it up of the beauty of the architecture and art.
There is a fear, a little bit. This was discussed with you and with some of your other artist friends that that the architects and the artists sometimes move far away from each other in terms where they used to work so closely together. Life has made it that it's not so much what it used to be. I'm wondering how you see this evolving and how you see this. What is your hope for it, as especially because private collectors will buy what they want. That is the choice of the private collector, to buy a piece, to spend the money to have this in their home. But when you were talking about a public space in particular, that requires thought, curation, and the hope that it's not an afterthought. What is your hope for art and architecture in moving forward in that sense? Does it need to be reconnected? Was there a conversation that was lost, or is it just a sign of the times that?
Well, I mean, more and more in university, they have like course about like art and architecture. I think this is the key point, that architect will think about the integration of art in the building, because we have to like always bring back that idea that is gonna help you like in your like imagination, help you like the result at the end, to arrive at that masterpiece that you always want to create. And you can do it alone, but with the help of an artist. Many architects are artists. Like there's like Le Corbusier was like an amazing artist. Like many are architects, but not all of them. So with the collaboration of an artist, you can arrive to your final goal to create your masterpiece. I think art and architecture will always like bring like at another level the creation of a piece.
And do you think that that's where things are heading? Is that your hope, or are you waiting to see?
It's my hope, but during time and history, like we talk about Art Nouveau, Bauhaus, like it's always an influence, like art influence, like architect, or like and vice versa. So I think you can't go beside of it. You will always be influenced by art, and it will always like show in your creation in architecture. So like the collaboration will always be there, because you have to evolve with art and architecture. They always sometimes go together, go beside, but they always join at the end.
Hopefully they join at the end. I mean, that is the hope. You talked briefly about there's certain cities right now back in North America that are saying any new building or structure, public structure, has to have that 1% of financing that goes for artists. 1% doesn't sound amazing, but what are your thoughts on that?
No, but I think 1% is a good start, because when you consider that these like amazing buildings, the Olympics, what amount of money it costs. So when you put 1% in art, so it's pretty like huge at the end. So 1%, it's a start, but still it's a start. I mean, like I think should be like consider like in the law that it should be like 1% at least consideration to like when you create a building.
So it's a start.
It would be a great start,
it's a start.
If it would be everywhere.
It's a start. We don't have a lot of time left, but I did want to ask, because when they do say art and architecture, there's obviously very famous examples of how that has worked so well, and buildings themselves become these beautiful art structures, and you're lucky enough to be up in quite a few of these buildings around the world. Talk about an example of like that perfectly reflects that for you, of like a public-private space that sort of fills that role.
Well, if you had the chance to go to Nice, there's like Hotel Negresco, which like it's a postcard of Nice. It's like everybody like know the Hotel Negresco. It's like spectacular, amazing structure. Like this is during the Belle Époque time of creation, and the owner of that building, she was a lover of art. So the owner she passed away recently, sadly. So the owner of that building, she created in that hotel, the Negresco, like a museum. So
it's an art gallery.
It's an art gallery. So like everywhere you go on different floor, it's a different time of history of art, and every room have an art piece, original art piece. So like you go through that hotel, your whole experience, looking for the outside, going from the inside, this whole experience, and when you go out of that hotel, you're hooked to it. You have to go back again because
It's
there's
like
so
the
much
insides
to
match
discover.
the outsides. The
It's
building itself is an artwork, and the
It's
inside.
the perfect combination of art and structure and building, and also when you think about the way you want to promote your hotel, everything is a perfect combination. It's like you create a clientele that goes back and back and back.
Well, listen, we've run out of time, but I think that in a room full of people that are dealing with construction, I think you want them to remember that when you're building the walls, the floors, and everything, to remember the art as well.
Yes, please.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.